Welcome to Pimpy's Investment Chat, where we keep investment talk simple. And here's your host, Pimpy.
What is going on out there, peeps? Anyways, I got people out there asking me about the global currency reset. Whatever happened to that? In case you're not paying attention or you've been sleeping on a job, it's already in effect. We're going to go over 3 different stages of global currency reset that I believe is going to happen in a short period of time. For those who don't remember the picture that you're seeing in front of you, this comes off, I believe it was the Economist magazine in 1988. And you can see down below it's got currencies that are on fire, which means that those currencies no longer are good. And around the neck of the phoenix, of course, is a gold coin. It looks like a cryptocurrency. And yes, Stellar Luma people, XLM fans, I see your symbol right on the neck of the phoenix. They get excited every time they see this picture. Before we get started, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button. If you're not a subscriber, please do so, because when you do, it helps out the channel, and I certainly do appreciate it. Right now, it should have already been on your mind, and you should have already been in the process of doing so. If you're thinking about buying gold and silver, now is the time. Check out our friends over there at Money Metals Exchange. The link is down below in the description. If you're a first-time buyer and you spend more than $100, use promo code Pimpy, P-I-M-P-Y, and you will get a free half ounce of silver. Currently, right now, around the world, economies are collapsing. This is by design. The powers that be do this, every 70, 80 years. Put us into some type of new monetary system. If you're paying attention to the news, you can see that currencies are being devalued. They're claiming that the US dollar is getting stronger. Therefore, the other currencies are getting weaker. They're collapsing. Economies are collapsing. I've done plenty of videos showing you recently. There's a lot of protests going on around the world. A lot of governments are being overthrown. Banks are closing down and people don't have access to their money. Their currencies have little to no value. And we keep hearing increasing talk about the central bank digital currency. So let's go over all 3 resets. I believe these resets will eventually lead to gold. And here's why. So right now, there are 3 major reset themes for the financial system, all with dire consequences. So let's look at the first reset. The current global crisis situation is almost as unreal as a 1964 James Bond movie, Goldfinger, in which the old 007 villain, Eric Goldfinger, plans to attack Fort Knox. The world already has a real Goldfinger in the World Economic Forum's German founder and globalist Klaus Schwab. I've said that many times. Every time I see him, I always go, I love gold. Is Schwab a modern Goldfinger? So Klaus Schwab's Great Reset agenda sounds more suitable for a coming Bond film than for our own world. It certainly has all the ingredients of a Bond film, including dismantling the current capitalist system, achieving world dominance with assistance of implemented computer chips in every human being in order to control and program the human race. Just to be clear, the preceding sentence is Klaus Schwab's plan, and it's not made up. The real life plans are Charles Schwab's, and you can go to the Great Reset, you can go to the World Economic Forum, you can read the 4th Industrial Revolution. He tells the world what his plans are, just like you hear in a James Bond movie. The villain will tell you ahead of time what their goals are. So Klaus Schwab's plans are this. It's known as the Great Reset. The 4th Industrial Revolution are beyond belief and frightening, for the record. Every year, Schwab manages to gather the global elite in Davos, consisting of billionaires, corporate, and political leaders. It is hard to determine how many of the participants actually believe in Schwab's agenda and how many are there to rub shoulders with the global elite. Most seem to be there because it is a place to be seen and network. You would have thought there would be a much better place for important meetings than when the whole world is watching you, of course. Part of Klaus Schwab's plans are to have implementable microchips. So Schwab's agenda, according to his Great Reset under the umbrella of the 4th Industrial Revolution, is a fusion of our digital and biological identities. This will include active implant microchips that break the skin barrier in our bodies. On the World Economic Forum's website, the coronavirus is used as a pretext for a revolutionary reset. The agenda is based on dismantling the current capital system in favor of centralized technocrat rule, which will lead to fewer civil liberties, lower living standards, less fuel consumption, and accelerated automation of jobs. What's that old saying that we hear from Klaus Schwab as well as his acolytes?
You never want a serious crisis to go to waste. And what I mean by that, it's an opportunity to do things that you think you could not do before.
To use this neoliberal discourse to push certain policies around the globe. Periods of crisis are good because they sometimes lead to the opening up of possibilities for alternative discourses.
And this may hasten transitions that would have been in the interest of farmers to make eventually anyway. So never let a crisis go to waste.
Never waste a good crisis. And when it comes to the economic crisis, don't waste it when it can have a very positive impact on climate change and energy security. And that's what we're trying to do.
Yes, that's right. We've heard it over and over, especially from the people from the left and those who are huge supporters of the Great Reset. Never let a good crisis go to waste. The quote should be changed. Never let a good manufactured crisis go to waste. He said the purpose is clear. Klaus Schwab's Great Reset will involve implemented devices that will likely help to communicate thoughts normally expressed verbally and potentially unexpressed thoughts or moods by reading brain waves and other signals. That's why I tell people, don't assume Elon Musk is your friend. Right now, he's the one that's developing this chip that they're talking about. It's called the Eurolink. Even crossing national borders might one day involve a detailed brain scan to assess an individual's security risk. Can you imagine that? Trying to travel, but before you do, you have to have your brain scanned? What the hell? Schwab also states that the implantable microchips will be the cornerstone of transhumanism agenda that will merge men with the machine, merging humans into robots. And I know a lot of you out there going, no, but it's not going to happen. It's impossible. The technology doesn't exist. Well, guess what? You're wrong. It does exist, and it is here now. It says this will force us to question what it means to be human. That's what Klaus Schwab says. It seems that Schwab definitely doesn't believe that we humans have a soul. Well, let's find out if that's true.
Now, in the past, many tyrants and governments wanted to do it, but nobody understood biology well enough. And nobody had enough computing power and data to hack millions of people. Neither the Gestapo nor the KGB could do it. But soon, at least some corporations and governments will be able to systematically hack all the people. We humans should get used to the idea that we are no longer mysterious souls. We are now hackable animals. Data might enable human elites to do something even more radical than just build digital dictatorships. By hacking organisms, elites may gain the power to re-engineer the future of life itself. Because once you can hack something, you can usually also engineer it. And if indeed we succeed in hacking and engineering life, this will be not just the greatest revolution in the history of humanity. This will be the greatest revolution in biology since the very beginning of life 4 billion years ago. For 4 billion years, nothing fundamental changed in the basic rules of the game of life. All of life, for 4 billion years, dinosaurs, amoebas, tomatoes, humans, all of life was subject to the laws of natural selection and to the laws of organic biochemistry. But this is now about to change. Science is replacing evolution by natural selection with evolution by intelligent design. Not the intelligent design of some god above the clouds. But our intelligent design and the intelligent design of our clouds, the IBM cloud, the Microsoft cloud, these are the new driving forces of evolution. And at the same time, science may enable life after being confined for 4 billion years to the limited realm of organic compounds. Science may enable life to break out into the inorganic realm. So after 4 billion years of organic life shaped by natural selection, we are entering the era of inorganic life shaped by intelligent design. So does the data about my DNA, my brain, my body, my life, does it belong to me or to some corporation or to the government or perhaps to the human collective? Humans are now hackable animals. You know, the whole idea that humans have, you know, they have this soul or spirit and they have free will and nobody knows what's happening inside me. So whatever I choose, whether in the election or whether in the supermarket, this is my free will, that's over. Free will, that's over.
That's over.
Over. Today, we have the technology to hack human beings on a massive scale. Yeah, I mean, everything is being digitalized. Everything is being monitored. In this time of crisis, you have to follow science. It's often said that you should never allow a good crisis to go to waste, because a crisis is an opportunity to also do good reforms that in normal times people will never agree to. But in a crisis, you see, we have no chance. So let's do it.
Vaccine won't help us go
the
to the test, of course.
The vaccine will help us, of course. It will make things, you know, more manageable. Surveillance. People could look back in 100 years and identify the coronavirus epidemic as the moment when a new regime of surveillance took over, especially surveillance under the skin, which I think is maybe the most important development of the 21st century, is this ability to hack human beings, to go under the skin, collect biometric data, analyze it, and understand people better than they understand themselves. This, I believe, is maybe the most important event of the 21st century.
One of the features of this fourth industrial revolution is that it doesn't change what we are doing, but it changes us. The difference of this fourth industrial revolution is it doesn't change what you are doing, it changes you. If you take genetic editing, right. Just as an example, it's you who are changed. Yeah, and of course this has a big impact on your identity.
Yeah. And offers certain kinds of possibilities that have to be careful about. You know, when you began to do that kind of gene editing, some people worry that you are changing what it means to be human.
Not just what it means to be human, but let's say, I don't know, the elite for some strange reason have a problem with Mexicans, black people. They can alter the genetics. They could eliminate these particular heritages. If you're a hackable human, what's to keep them from changing your programming?
That's the problem. And of course, the new industrial revolution offers us many opportunities, but it raises manifold questions on the ethical, but even legal implications. And we have to be prepared for it, and that's what we want to do in Davos next year.
Talk about technology and how the ways it can be deployed, that contribute to growth rather than exacerbate unemployment. How will that implement itself?
It's a big question mark, because there is a fear that technology, robots, just to take one
you gain
element,
productivity from machines.
Exactly, and it replaces maybe the workforce or jobs faster than we can replace them with new jobs. Not everybody can be a robot polisher and so on, so there will be new jobs.
So there you have it. You heard directly from the World Economic Forum. That man that you see speaking, I believe his name is Jorel. He is Klaus Schwab's right-hand man. You heard what he said. This thing about having souls, you don't have souls. The ability to have free will, they're going to strip that from you. They really want to merge you, not because you're a hackable human. They said you're a hackable animal, is what they said. And not because of some crazy god in the clouds, according to them, but according to their clouds of IBM, those are the types of clouds they're talking about. This is a realistic goal of the Great Reset, the World Economic Forums, who are doing a great job of using fear to get people to go in the direction they want them to go into. All you have to do is go to Klaus Schwab's book, The Fourth Industrial Revolution, to see exactly what it is they have in mind. So here we go. Aim to robotize humanity. That is their goal. The Fourth Industrial Revolution provides the potential to robotize humanity and thus compromise our traditional sources of meaning, work, community, family, and identity. They're already trying to erase our identity. This is why you see governments around the world flooding their countries with all kinds of refugees and immigrants. If you can erase the traditions of a country, eventually they start to lose who they are. Many of the technical developments that are part of the Fourth Industrial Revolution are clearly positive if handled correctly. But Schwab's vision of a dystopia Marxist society controlled by an almighty elite would lead to the collapse of the economy, just like communism did. That's the funny thing about this World Economic Forum. They call this inclusive capitalism. You see, they feel by using the word capitalism that we won't be able to recognize the fact that it's not about capitalism. They're lying. It's about communism. So you have to be careful of their word magic. They're very good at it. So there we have it. Orwell's 1984 has finally arrived with Big Brother not just watching every step of human beings, but also every thought, even before it has been expressed. Obviously, it will also become a two-way system so that humans can be programmed to do whatever the elites decide. And those are frightening thoughts. But what of this idea of Charles Schwab? It says, clearly Schwab's dream is the perfect script for the next Bond film, with the old villain executing Schwab's Great Reset. But the big consolation is that so far has the villain in the Bond's films ever succeeded to conquer the world or control humans. And I'm quite convinced that Schwab's Great Reset will fail as well. So here goes the second reset. The second reset involves the central bank's digital currency. Since the current financial system is bankrupt, the IMF, the BIS, and the leading central banks have realized that the present currency system needs to be replaced. So rather than a currency system based on paper money, the central banks would instead create a digital currency. Most of the major central banks are already working on the CBDC, and I believe, 11% have been implemented, 15% are being tested, 42% are being explored at the moment. Most of the major central banks are already working on a central bank digital currency. On top of national CBDC, there would be an IMF BIS digital currency, which would replace their present special drawn rights. Currently, central banks don't directly print money to inject into the system. Instead, they create money through open market operations. This involved purchasing securities in the market, using the new money, and by creating bank reserves issued to commercial banks. So what does this mean? It means commercial banks are the biggest money printers, if you think about it. These reserves combined with deposits allow commercial banks to be the biggest money printers. Their reserves are multiplied through fractional reserve banking, allowing them to lend a portion of the deposits and reserves. For those of you who don't know what fractional banking is, if the bank has received a deposit of $100, they have to keep $10 of that money on hand, and they're allowed to lend out the other $90 in loans. But on the books, it says they have $100, which is inaccurate. And so it goes on, thereby expanding the bank's balance sheets exponentially. This makes the commercial banks the biggest printers or creators of money and has led to the explosion of debt that the world is experiencing. Central banks, the new lenders. The new CBDC system will eventually lead to the commercial banks ceasing lending activities. Instead, central banks will print money and directly give the money to individuals or companies. This is what the modern monetary theory is all about. As the central banks take over the loans of the commercial banks, they will most probably offset depositors' funds, which then would be worthless. Many commercial banks will be allowed to go under. It's like a way to purge out other banks so that we have no other choice but to rely on the central bank. So the central bank to have ultimate control. It would be an ingenious system since the central bank would now control all money transactions, including tax collection. Why do you think it is that Biden is asking for, what is that, 87,000 new IRS agents? This is why right here. They would control every single bank account and could charge any tax, government levy or fine directly without authorization of the account holder. The central bank would never go bankrupt, as it would just write off any bad debt and print more money in a never-ending virtuous circle of unlimited money printing and debt creation. The problem is that the debt can never vanish without severe consequences. If you write off major debt, the assets that the debt were backing would also be worthless. But the ultimate ability to central banks to create new debt would supposedly solve any of these problems. At least that's what they believe. Money printing in the 2000s never acted as stimulus, but rather as a life raft for the financial system, which has been under constant threat of bankruptcy since 2006. This is why there has been no consumer inflation, but massive asset inflation. Since the printed money never reached the public, instead it temporarily propped up the banks and allowed the ones nearest to the printing press to create massive wealth. The privileged few with access to printing money included the banks themselves and their top management, hedge funds, private equities, as well as major investors and businesses. The consequences have been a massive gap between the haves and the have-nots, which will lead to a much bigger civil unrest than we are currently seeing. And we are seeing civil unrest happen all around the world. So the Bretton Woods II, which is what they're talking about, which is a wolf in sheep's clothing. So what is wrong with the system? It appears to be the perfect Shangri-La where money can be created at will, bringing total bliss to the world. While there is one major problem, the new Bretton Woods II, or reset, is just a wolf in sheep's clothing. It would be just a new construction to give the impression that the old system is now history and debts have been conveniently parked where they can make no harm. Not true. No road for gold? What? In my view, gold is unlikely to have an official role in the second reset. We're talking about if the central bank digital currencies are implemented. Whenever gold is officially backing the system, the risk of cheating or manipulation would be even greater than today. We must remember that before 1971, there was not the sophistication in the system to manipulate markets as we see now. All the second reset would be is a digital form of the fiat money, allowing central banks to flood the system directly with digital money instead of paper money, which they're doing now pretty much. So the benefit for the governments and the central banks is that they have just modernized and streamlined money printing. That's all it is. So the CBDC will lead to a hyperinflation is what's going to happen. But there's no benefits for the world. The CBDC will increase debt and velocity of money, eventually leading to hyperinflation and the total debasement of the digital currency. So in effect, just an acceleration of the problems in the current system. And here is the third and final reset. It's a disorderly reset. Finally, we have the third reset. This is the disorderly reset with the debasement of currencies accelerating, leading initially to hyperinflation and eventually to a systematic collapse and implosion of the financial system. And the third reset, the central banks would totally lose control. After the hyperinflation, there would be deflationary implosion of asset values, leading to the precipitous price declines. Gold would obviously be life-saving during a hyperinflation, but also be the only form of real money during the deflationary implosion as fiat money in the system disappears and becomes inaccessible. So in the summary, there are three potential resets. The World Economic Forum's reset, the Great Reset. And in my view, just a dream that is unlikely to happen. The central bank digital reset might start, but will be far from implemented before the third reset starts. The third disorderly reset, in my opinion, is inevitable and will happen whatever else the powers that be or central banks attempt. This is why you're seeing central banks gobble up as much gold as possible just in case. The consequences of this reset is that global debt will actually implode, and so will most bubble asset values. This will give rise to a new system that will not be encumbered by massive debt. Only after having gotten rid of the debt shackles can the world economy again grow soundly, albeit from a much lower level, which is fine and dandy. And what will the new system be? As always in history, resets don't arise sooner as the result of voluntary abandonment of further credit expansions, but rather later as a final and total catastrophe of the currency system involved. But the great benefit with a disorderly reset is that out of the ashes of the current disease system, a new sound and non-debt based currency system will arise. It will obviously take time, will involve a lot of suffering of the world, but in the end, the phoenix will rise out of the ashes. This is what history has taught us. Precious metals will be your life insurance. No one can with certainty say how the next 2 to 5 years will evolve or how the reset will develop. What is certain is that risk is currently massive and will increase with every day that passes as more money is printed and debt goes exponential. What we do know is that physical gold and silver is the best protection against an unstable and soon totally bankrupt system. Fiat currencies have declined 80 to 85% against gold in this past century, and in the next few years, they will decline another 95 to 100%, whether they are paper or digital. So clearly, the central bank digital currency is not the answer. Cryptocurrencies are not the answer. Gold and silver, without a doubt, is the answer and has been for the past 6,000 years. This is why I say I can't stress it enough. You need to buy gold and silver and have it in your possession if you're going to survive what the hell is coming up. Anyways, that's it for now. You guys let me know what you think. I look forward to your comments and I will catch you later. I'm out.